The moment started like any normal evening in the restaurant. Soft music, warm lights, and the gentle murmur of diners enjoying their meals. But in one corner, tension was building, thick enough to make the air feel heavy. A cop, badge gleaming, walked up to a man sitting quietly at his table. "Sir," he barked, voice sharp and commanding, "you're in the wrong section. Move immediately." The man looked up slowly, calm and polite, a faint, unbothered smile on his face. Okay," he said evenly. Politeness, however, was not enough for the cop. He leaned closer, his fingers stabbing at the table like it could assert dominance. "I said get up. Now." The diners froze mid-bite, phones subtly appearing in hands, recording what was already feeling like a legendary moment. The man stayed seated, radiating calm, confident energy. There was a presence in him that immediately unsettled the cop, though he didn't realize why. He pressed on, voice rising. "I don't care who you think you are. Move." The diners whispered under their breath, glancing around, a few murmuring, "No way. Is that?" The man finally leaned forward, calm, deliberate, resting his hands on the table. "Officer," he said, measured, smooth. "Respect works better than fear. Maybe next time, think before humiliating someone." The words landed like a hammer. Recognition hit the cop like a lightning bolt. His eyes went wide. His jaw slackened. He had just humiliated Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he hadn't even known it. The Rock didn't yell. He didn't intimidate. He didn't even flex. He just radiated presence, calm, commanding, undeniable. The room shifted around him. Phones were recording. Diners gasped, whispered, stifled laughs. The cop's face went pale. His confidence, which had been unshakable seconds ago, crumbled instantly. Words failed him. The cop's mouth opened, closed, opened again, as if the air itself had betrayed him. He could feel the room watching, judging, recording. Every diner's gaze burned into him, some stifling laughter, others whispering in disbelief. Did he just? No way. That's The Rock. The Rock leaned back slightly in his chair, calm, measured, his presence filling every corner of the restaurant. He didn't shout. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. His aura alone reshaped the room. The diners felt it. Phones hovered closer, some recording secretly, others pretending to check texts. Every fork and glass seemed to pause mid-air, as if the restaurant itself had sensed a shift in energy. Finally, The Rock spoke again, voice smooth but firm. "Officer, I understand you think authority comes from fear. But respect, real respect, comes from understanding, not intimidation. Maybe next time, make sure you know who you're humiliating before you step up." The cop's knees felt weak. Sweat pricked at his forehead. He looked at the floor, then at The Rock, then around at the diners. Eyes wide, phones pointed, whispers buzzing like bees. Apology words formed in his head, then disappeared. Every sentence felt weak, hollow, inadequate. Words failed him completely. Meanwhile, The Rock's calmness created a ripple effect. The diners leaned forward subtly, captivated. The waiter who had been standing frozen nearby finally whispered to his coworker, "Man, he's not even trying, and he's winning." The coworker nodded slowly, eyes wide. "That energy, I can feel it from here." The Rock's sonorous voice continued, quiet but commanding. "It's easy to think power comes from fear. It doesn't. Power comes from presence, from patience, from confidence that doesn't need to raise its voice. You can get compliance through threats, yes, but respect? Respect is earned, and it lasts." The cop's face turned red, then pale, then red again. He tried to respond, but every syllable felt wrong, every word hollow. He opened his mouth to say, I'm sorry," but The Rock's piercing gaze made him stumble over it. Finally, a mumbled, trembling, "Yes, I'm sorry, sir," escaped. The diners, sensing the dramatic shift, began murmuring among themselves. A couple of high school students, sitting in a corner, whispered rapidly, "Did you just see that? He humiliated a cop." "No, the cop humiliated himself." Phones buzzed silently as students uploaded secret clips, the tension in the room almost tangible enough to touch. Even the staff felt it. The hostess, standing near the entrance, whispered to the manager, "I've never seen anything like this, that man. It's The Rock." The manager nodded, eyes wide. "Yeah, that's not just a guy eating dinner. That's presence. That's energy. The Rock leaned back in his chair, smiling faintly, returning to his plate as if nothing had happened. The cop, however, stayed frozen, a living monument to embarrassment. His authority had evaporated like smoke in sunlight. He fumbled with his words, muttered apologies, and finally slunk away to the far end of the restaurant, trying to disappear into the background. The diners exhaled collectively. The tension cracked into a mixture of awe, relief, and humor. Some chuckled quietly, some whispered, "I need to tell everyone I was here." Phones were recording, whispers spreading across tables like wildfire. The story was already alive, already viral before it even left the restaurant. The Rock calmly picked up his fork, cut a perfect piece of steak, and savored it. He radiated effortless confidence, a man completely unshaken, yet somehow teaching the room the most important lesson of the night. Presence matters more than authority. Patience beats intimidation, and confidence without aggression commands every eye and ear. Even the music seemed to shift subtly, as if the restaurant itself vibed with the energy. Conversations resumed, but now they carried a different tone. People talking in hushed, reverent voices, replaying every word, every glance, every subtle move the Rock had made. A little girl nearby tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, that man, he's famous, right?" Her mother nodded, smiling. "Yes, honey, he's special." The Rock, sensing the tiny audience, gave a faint nod, polite but understated. No selfies, no posing, just calm, magnetic presence. By the time he finished his meal and stood to leave, the restaurant felt transformed. The cop, humbled and still red-faced, muttered under his breath something along the lines of, "Never again." Diners whispered, phones buzzed with notifications, and a few couldn't resist replaying the moment over and over. As the Rock walked to the door, his steps measured and confident, the glow of admiration followed him. The hum of the restaurant shifted into something lighter, almost electrified, as if everyone had just witnessed more than a dinner. They had witnessed a masterclass in presence, respect, and unshakable energy. Even after he left, the whispers continued. "Did you see that? I can't believe it. He didn't even yell and still shut the cop down." Phones buzzed with notifications. Videos had already hit social media. Memes would be made. Comments would explode. And one lesson remained crystal clear in everyone's minds. Never humiliate someone without knowing exactly who they are, especially when it's The Rock. The room slowly returned to normal, but the vibe lingered. The energy The Rock carried didn't fade with his exit. It radiated in the laughter, in the whispers, in the way even the staff walked taller, carrying a little spark of that unstoppable, magnetic, calm confidence. And somewhere in the corner, the humbled cop took a deep breath, staring at the empty spot where The Rock had sat, knowing this night would haunt him forever. The cop finally sank into a chair at the far end of the restaurant, head in his hands, muttering apologies that seemed to vanish into the hum of conversation. Every syllable felt small, weak, and hollow. He could feel the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on him, silently judging, recording, remembering. Words that might have saved his pride earlier now failed him completely. The diners, however, were buzzing with excitement. Phones were out, discreetly recording the encounter, and whispers filled the gaps between bites. "Did you see that?" One whispered to another. He just froze. He didn't even know what hit him. The words spread like wildfire, as if the room collectively understood it had witnessed something legendary. Meanwhile, The Rock returned to his plate, calm, unbothered, yet radiating a presence so strong it shifted the entire restaurant's energy. He cut his steak deliberately, took measured bites, and chewed thoughtfully, as if nothing had happened, but everyone knew everything had happened. Every glance, every word he had said, had changed the room. A couple sitting near the window couldn't contain themselves. "I can't believe it," one said, whispering excitedly. The man didn't even raise his voice, and the cop, he froze completely. "That's insane." Their companion nodded, eyes wide. "It's like watching a masterclass in presence. I've never seen anything like it." The cop, still slumped in his chair, glanced nervously at The Rock, trying to gauge if there was more coming. But The Rock simply radiated calm, letting the lesson sink in quietly. It was a subtle kind of power, no threats, no yelling, just undeniable confidence. The officer's uniform suddenly felt heavy, the badge on his chest more like a reminder of humility than authority. Even the staff couldn't hide their smiles. Waiters exchanged knowing glances, managers shook their heads in disbelief, and the hostess leaned slightly forward, whispering to a coworker, "I've never seen anyone handle that situation like that. That man doesn't even try. He just is." Her coworker nodded, captivated by the energy lingering in the room. Outside, city lights reflected off the windows, casting long, golden streaks across the polished tables. The Rock's calm presence seemed to linger in those reflections, almost as if the restaurant itself remembered him. Conversations resumed, but they carried a different tone, soft, thoughtful, infused with awe and a little humor, as if everyone had just shared a private lesson in respect. A young girl, wide-eyed, tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, that man, he's famous, right?" Her mother nodded, smiling. "Yes, honey, and he just taught the whole restaurant a lesson in respect and calm." Even children could feel the aura, the kind of energy that didn't require explanation, only recognition. The cop slowly rose from his chair, muttering under his breath, "I will never forget this." His steps were measured but humbled. For him, it wasn't just about authority or following rules anymore. It was about understanding presence, confidence, and the weight of respect, a lesson far deeper than any reprimand could teach. As The Rock finished his meal and stood to leave, the energy in the restaurant seemed to shift subtly. Diners straightened, staff moved lighter, and the air hummed with the quiet excitement of witnessing something extraordinary. Even the music playing in the background felt different, perfectly matching the lingering vibe. As he walked out, The Rock's calm, deliberate steps carried the kind of energy that left a mark on every soul in the room. Phones clicked quietly, whispers turned into retellings, and some diners even started replaying the moment in their heads, imagining the confidence, the authority, and the unshakable calm he had carried effortlessly. By the time the evening ended, the story of the encounter had already begun to live beyond the walls of the restaurant. The cop would carry his humiliation and lesson forever. The diners would share the story endlessly, and the memory of The Rock's presence would linger, a quiet, electric, unforgettable vibe, proving that true authority comes not from fear, but from calm, measured confidence and undeniable presence.